Good afternoon and welcome to the MeetUp OnAir webcast brought to you by Core BTS. Today's presenters are Keith Hennessy, Solutions Architect at Core BTS, and Sean Poulter, Senior Systems Engineer at Core BTS. In this Microsoft Technology Roadmap event, they'll demonstrate the ways in which newest version of Office 365 can help employees keep in sync and ultimately create a more cohesive, unified organization. A couple of quick logistical items before we begin. First, you'll notice the chat feature in the bottom left-hand side of your monitor. We'll be taking some comments and questions throughout the webinar for a quick Q&A session at the end. And then just to the right of that, you'll notice the scheduling module. Please feel free to use this to schedule a more in-depth conversation with a Core BTS representative. As a thank you for taking this next step, you'll receive an additional gift card, which will be sent to you following the meeting. So with that, let's begin the presentation.
Thanks very much. My name is Keith Hennessy. I'm a Solutions Architect at Core BTS. Today we're going to talk about Office 365, the way you can collaborate in Office, the way you can use it to span your day-to-day life as far as not just Outlook, but for collaboration, for social across the entire spectrum, kind of tying things together for productivity and collaboration. So let me start off. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a slide deck, and then we'll follow that up with Sean, and Sean will run through some demos with you. So let's start talking about the way that people work. We're talking about three generations of people currently in the workforce today. You have a ton of different devices out there. I'm sure that's a pain point in today's organizations. We hear it every day at Core BTS that there are, it's not just a laptop or a desktop anymore. It's mobile devices, it's tablets. So that's something that has to be addressed. Also, when you look at things like the cloud, the question is, are people going to go to the cloud? Is there a path to the cloud? And one of the ways you can do that easily is through Office 365. So when we talk about that type of thing, it's what kind of tools are you going to use to be productive and for your users to be productive, and at the same time, from a cloud perspective, what can you utilize in the cloud to get that productivity? What we see a lot at Core is we see users and enterprises that have varying degrees of aging hardware. Do they need to do an upgrade? There's a lot of upgrades on the table. Microsoft has gone through a large change in the last 18 months as far as from a product set. Every single product in Microsoft's portfolios has changed. So, do you need to follow that curve from a hardware perspective, or is there an easier way to do that? One of the ways to do that is through Office 365, through their kind of cloud services. So we'll get into depth with that today. So what is Microsoft's cloud? Microsoft's cloud is globally redundant data centers. They've made a huge investment on data centers where, including minimizing latency worldwide, cloud infrastructure. They have, they're continuing to go with the compliance set to make sure that they adhere to the compliance and the complexities surrounding compliance as far as straight across the board, whether it be PCI or HIPAA or anything like that. Also security. How do I secure it? Because now it's out of my data center. How do I secure the cloud, quote unquote? How do I make that easy for my IT organization to address? How do I address those cloud issues as far as from a security level? Also, it's going to save you money from a cost perspective just on power usage and whatnot. And so that's the energy savings and cost savings there is another reason to kind of look at the cloud. So when we're talking about Office 365, we're really talking about not just Exchange, but really the entire new Office suite. You're talking about the ability to connect to devices, any device. You're talking about it being touch enabled, optimized, so you can not just use. It's not just a mouse anymore. It's the new Office is created to be functional in a touch environment. Also support for Windows phones, Android devices, and iOS. So also there's a lot of social aspects. Social is not something that you can necessarily get away from in the enterprise anymore. Email is, sometimes is a little bit slow for response and whatnot. So in this kind of fast-paced world, sometimes you need to add some additional feature sets to allow you to collaborate quickly. Using something like IM, Presence, all these things kind of collaborate together to allow that speed that the users crave, rather than just waiting around for the email to come in to find out, where you're going to lunch or something like that. Also, from a cloud perspective, Office, installing Office, making it on demand, being able to update Office constantly, have the latest and greatest version is huge as far as from a feature set perspective. And the cloud adheres to all those standards and reliability with SLAs and whatnot. So you also have the ability to do DLP, data retention, e-discovery. All these things are available through the Office 365 cloud. And then you have a management experience that's consistent, and we'll look at that today. Another neat thing about Office 365 is you have Professional Plus, which comes with some of the packages that's available on the Office 365 side. So you can actually run Office 2013 side by side with Office 2010 or previous versions. You also have the ability, which is unique to Office 365, is you're allowed to install five installs on Macs or PCs per user. So it's one of those things that when you adopt Office 365 in your organization, you can extend the user's reach to their home, or wherever they want to install a copy of Office, they're allowed to do so, up to 5 per user. You also have roaming capabilities within Office 365. Using things like SkyDrive, you can roam your data and your preferences. And also you have the standard things from Office 365 as far as it becomes an extension of your actual domain. So it's not just hosting email and having to log in twice or anything to that extent. You have the ability to do things like extend your Active Directory infrastructure to Microsoft's cloud securely, and being able to take advantage of that to basically make Office 365 an Exchange Online and an extension of your existing environment, to the point of being able to do PowerShell scripts and whatnot. So it's very dynamic, and it's a complete solution. So let's talk a little bit about devices. Again, as I mentioned before, this is optimized for touch. So whether you're on a tablet, a Windows tablet, or whether you're on a Surface or you're on something else like an iPad or Android, there are capabilities there that are optimized on the touch side. So that's something new within the Office space, within Microsoft space just recently. And it's kind of nice because you have the ability you don't have to worry about the fat finger syndrome. And Sean will show you some of the advantages even within Outlook and some of the existing applications today where you can enable it for touch. And again, this is across mobile platforms. So if you're talking about iPhones, iPads, Androids, you can edit documents right out of Office Web Apps, which is a component of Office 365. So you're able to open up documents, OneNote, spreadsheets, whatever you need to do, and you can edit that on any device. So as we talked about before, there is a social aspect to this as well. So the social aspect comes in where, they've changed SharePoint. So SharePoint is more akin to having a social look and feel, and I believe that gives greater adoption from a user set standpoint. You still have your document sharing, but now you can follow documents, you can follow team sites, you can follow people. You can also go in and you have presence. So one key thing with Office 365 is you have the ability to see where anyone is without jumping into certain applications. In other words, Microsoft has the ability to alert you of the person's presence, whether they're available, whether they're in the meeting, whether they're offline, online, through spanning across different platforms. So if you guys can see the screen in front of me here, you see that particular person has presence available, and that presence integration kind of opens up the door to being able to see whether the people, their availability without having to jump into one application and jump out of one app and jump into another app. So that's a huge thing that we use at Core every day, and a lot of our clients do too. And again, this is a news feed, so you can do a lot of different things. You can have a running stream, and this can be built out for team sites, for projects. There's tagging, hashtagging, and whatnot, all built into this from a social aspect. And we just talked about presence. You'll see here, now we flipped over. We went from SharePoint, where we could see the person's presence, to now we're in Outlook. Actually, we're in Word, sorry. We're in Word here, and if I just highlight over that person, there's going to be a pop-up, a people card that pops up and gives you the person's information, whether they're available or in a conference call or away or do not disturb. From this particular pop-up within Word, you can actually go in and IM the person. You can call the person. So there's a lot of things that this streams across without having to, again, jump out and jump back into multiple applications. It's wherever you are, you can access that person's information, find out what he's doing, and be able to get in contact with that person. There's also social feeds that are available. So you can use LinkedIn or Facebook to tie that person's information together to see exactly what's new with the person. So there's a lot of social integration within Office 365 platform that gives it a look and feel that users are more comfortable with. And then we get into the IMing side of things, which is Microsoft Link, and that is also a component of Office 365. And again, same thing here. When you have a link window up, you're going to be able to see their presence if they're available, and right from there you can call them, you can email them, you can start a video, chat, you can do multi-party. You could have multiple people within that video chat at any given time. Just add them, and when you have the people, you can literally just drag them into this box here, and you can actually add them to the chat just by simply dragging them in. It's also great for collaboration because you can present content. You can collaborate on documents within this. You can show PowerPoint. You can share your screen. You can do whiteboarding. You can take polls if you want to. There's a lot of different options and availability within the link session. And again, this is all spanning across these. It doesn't matter what you're in. As long as you're in Office, you're going to be able to get to these same feature sets. So then we talk about the cloud. When we talk about the cloud, Microsoft it's basically Office, Exchange Online, SharePoint, and Link. You're talking about the Microsoft's financially backed SLA for their cloud services. You're talking about, as the slide deck says, it's familiar, it's powerful, it's cross-platform, and it's dynamic. So if you're in an environment that you want to use Office 365 for some users, let's say remote users, but you have some, the rest of your organization has internal staff that you want to keep on-prem, you can do a hybrid solution where the Exchange server on-prem talks to the Office 365 server, and they act as an extension of each other. So from that perspective, you have a lot of availability and options there as to how to plan out the infrastructure to do Office 365. It doesn't necessarily have to be everything in the cloud. It can be a combination and a hybrid of any different way you want to do it. So, that's one of the features on the cloud side. The other thing is, you have the ability from a cloud perspective that Office will roam with you. In other words, when you sign in, you can sign in directly to Office using your credentials, and you can utilize synchronization using SkyDrive to be able to have your documents stay with you and follow you whatever device you're on. Also, the nice thing is you also have the ability to resume where you left off. So as soon as I close a Word document and I reopen it, that Word document's going to mention to me that the last time you were in this document, you were on page 13. Would you like to go there? So a lot of nice added features that kind of make lives a little bit easier. And that's that feature I just talked about where you can go, welcome back, and it'll say exactly where you were the last time you used this particular document. Also, you have the option to save in SkyDrive Pro. So you have a lot of different options there. There's SharePoint integration within not just Office, but not just the Office web portion, but there's SharePoint integration that can be tied into Outlook. And we may get into this a little bit during the demo, but SharePoint can actually, you can tie SharePoint in where you can see all the document sets within SharePoint in Outlook. So rather than jumping out and back in, you want to go one-stop shopping so you can go right into the application or get to the document you need. You don't have to jump out and go into SharePoint. It's going to be right available right within Outlook. So deployment is very easy on the Office 365 side. Whether you're using something on-prem like System Center or whether you're using the Office 365 stream, you have tools that you can do either way. Again, very dynamic. You can have a hybrid of the two, or you can have on-prem or Office 365, and it'll use it. You can use it offline and online as far as Outlook is concerned, and all your documents are concerned. You also have the ability to stream your downloads, so you can actually install. It'll run almost instantly. So let's say I start to download Office 2013 and I realize I need to jump into Word real quick. I can double click on Word 2013 before it's even done installing, and after a few more moments it prioritizes Word as being the installation. Instead of installing it piecemeal, it's going to install Word first and then allow me to open Word before the Office install is even complete. So they've done a lot from that perspective to make things a lot easier. So then you even have the ability to extend cloud apps, such as you can integrate Bing maps and whatnot. You can have them integrate into your Excel documents to kind of give you a look and feel for different applications. You can have locations stated. You can roam your data, and you can develop a lot of different things on the SharePoint side to kind of integrate in. And here we have Bing Maps is associated. So if you have a user, let's say that has a appointment set up and you're not sure where the location is, you can actually have an application that's the Bing Maps application right within Outlook, and you click on that link, and it'll automatically show you where that location is that you were unsure of, without jumping out and jumping into the web to do a map search for it. And then we also go into things like control. So from a control standpoint, they have data loss prevention. They have policies. You can do scan email subject, body, and attachments. So from those that have compliance issues or policy issues, you're able to utilize DLP to get your credit card information stripped out or not allow them to forward emails, and it has built-in templates for different features as far as that's concerned. And you could also create your own templates based on account numbers or anything to that effect. Also, you have data retention that can be user-based or policy-based. So if, in this example, Sarah Davis is a member of the financial group, so the retention policy for hers is 5 years. And that's policy-based. And then that user can also create her own retention policies if she'd like to, that don't override the admin policies, obviously, but you can get into some serious, some granular retention with this feature set. You also have discovery. So one of the problems I've heard over the years is when you IM, it just disappears, right? You don't have any kind of way to discover that from a legal perspective. Who knows what people talk about in IM? That's no longer the case. With Link, that ties back through to Outlook and makes it fully searchable and discoverable, and also SharePoint as well. So between Exchange, which is Outlook, and Link, and SharePoint, you're able to get into and be able to find any information you need through the eDiscovery tool. We also have a consistent management experience here with, same kind of on-prem look and feel is also available on the Office 365 side. So that same Exchange server that you may have, you have the ability that look and feel, that admin center is exactly the same. And you have granularity over the services, and you can also go into PowerShell on the Office 365 side to run scripts. So it's not just an email server that's being hosted for you by Microsoft. This is an extension of your existing infrastructure. And we can look into here as far as protection is concerned. Your enterprise feature sets are available right through the management console. So there are some Microsoft testimonials that we made a bit.ly link on, as far as you can go to that link right here on the screen. And when you look at Office 365, Microsoft is obviously your global brand, as far as your operating systems, your servers and whatnot. But when we look at the who's going into a Coca-Cola, Starbucks, that type of thing, McDonald's, Siemens, all these people going into Office 365. So if you go to the testimonials page, right there, the shortcut link we left there, you're going to see a lot of good testimonials on how Office 365 had made the IT's life a lot easier. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he's going to run through some of the demos pertaining to what we talked about today. Sean?
Great. Thanks, Keith. So Keith mentioned right away at the start, one of the things about the new Office is how it's optimized for lots of different devices. It works on your traditional desktops. You have phone-based applications and also tablet-based applications. Let me start there. So here, what I'm going to do is try to share my desktop. One moment. And we should be able to see Outlook, hopefully.
Yep.
Great.
Sean, what are you running on right now?
Oh, this is the Microsoft Surface Pro. So this is an example of one of those touch interfaces. And one of the first things I want to point out here, let's move this around a little bit so we can see it better, is you'll notice on the title bar of the application, there is, in all the Office applications, this ability to switch between touch mode or mouse mode. It's a new version of the pointing finger of the mouse. And when you're in touch mode, which I am right now, The application has subtle differences between touch and mouse mode. Let me switch to mouse mode and see if you can notice what happens. A couple things happen. First of all, in the Outlook experience, when I'm in touch mode, I get an extra toolbar, if you will, over here on the left-hand side, which has some, right-hand side, beg your pardon, which has the quick, easy access features so that when you're using a tablet device, you can easily get to things like reply, forward, whatnot. You can delete, you can file, all those easy operations, most commonly used operations. And then also the ribbon changes a bit. The ribbon adds space for, Keith mentioned fat fingers, I definitely have those. So when I'm in touch mode, I get a little more forgiveness when I'm trying to use that ribbon up across the top. And if I go to mouse mode, you can see, again, those changes to the user interface, trying to give me more on my screen since it doesn't have to be as precise as with my hand-handed fist here. Something else about the Office applications, Microsoft listened, and the market spoke about how much screen real estate this ribbon takes up traditionally. Microsoft listened, and you can see here the ribbon can actually be collapsed, and then it's dynamic. So if I hover back over and select Home, it'll pop up the ribbon. I can select the operation I want to do, and then the ribbon will go away. Or when I click away from it, the ribbon collapses. So again, the idea of optimizing for limited screen real estate on those touch devices or tablet-based devices. Here we are looking at the new Outlook, Outlook 2013. You can see its look and feel. It's very similar to traditional Outlook. You have your reading pane, your message pane, some new features. Notice along the bottom here, you do have these what we call hover windows. So for example, if I need to see what else is happening on my calendar, I can just simply hover over. If I need to see contacts, I can hover over. If I need to see tasks, I can hover over. And those things easily pop up, so I don't have to switch over to my calendar to see what's happening in the next few hours. Some nice features that integrate back to things that Keith was talking about and show something new. Let's see here. I've got this action required email message. Someone's asking me, hey, we got this new account. We need to validate and approve credit and all that fun stuff. So here, what I'm going to do is try to reply to this message. Actually, let me forward it on. Notice the first thing you see here is we have in-place editing of the message. Let me slide this over a bit so we can see it better. The editing of my Outlook message happens directly within and above the reading pane. So you can see I can address it. So in this case, I'm going to send this over to Andrew, one of our business partners. Start drafting a message here. And we'll give the system a second to start to process this message. And what we should see pop up are some message tips. These are the data loss prevention features that Keith was mentioning. Things that you can turn on and enable or turn off would be detecting, for example, what domain you're sending that message to, and it can block messages from being sent outside of your local Exchange environment. The data loss protection feature itself is a pattern matching tool. So built in are a set of templates, and the one that I'm waiting to kick in here is the credit card template. You can see this email does include credit card information. And so what data loss prevention gives you is it gives you the ability to scan the messages that users are composing, look for certain patterns in the text, and then you can apply a policy to that. Do you want them to be able to look forward that message internally, externally? It's up to us. We can decide that administratively.
And it doesn't have to be Outlook 2013 per se. You have the ability in Outlook 2010 to adhere to those same policies. Even in previous versions, if you send it, it's happening on the server side. So your DLP is happening on the server side, so you may not get a policy tip. What you might get is you might get just a rejection to say, hey, that you have a policy against this due to DLP. You're not allowed to send this. So, just to note, it's not just a required Outlook feature. It's a server-side feature.
Great point, Keith. Thank you. And actually what Keith's describing is also the web experience. If you're using Outlook Web Access, you wouldn't get those pop-up messages, those mail tips at all. You would just get a response that says, sorry, we couldn't send that message for these policy-based reasons. A couple other things here. As I'm working with this message, you notice I can cancel it, discard it, just automatically delete the draft. I can also decide if I need to, I can pop out the message, in which case it creates its own message window outside the Outlook window if I need more screen real estate to work on that message. And then a feature I really like is you'll notice that as I'm working on a message, let me wait for the screen to refresh there. As I'm working on a message, you can see over here in my email pane, it shows that this is a draft, meaning I started to edit this message and moved on to something else, and I can come right back to that message. It leaves me where I was as I was typing, and I can continue on with my edits. So it also shows up in the drafts folder like traditionally you would experience in Outlook, but now you can also see that quick and easily by just looking through your message pane.
Sean, what about the install process?
Sure. Yeah, Keith mentioned different ways to deploy Office, in this case the desktop Office. When you purchase, depending on what version of Office 365 you purchase, you can get up to 5 installs of Office. And of course, you can also purchase the Office desktop suite outside of Office 365. But there are multiple ways to deploy it. An example here is through email. It's simply a link to a executable that we would set up and configure to kick off the install. We can make it hands-off, so it simply happens behind the scenes. We can prompt the user for messages, but we can provide an end-user-driven way to start to kick off that install.
So in this scenario, Sean is Julian and I'm Alan. I'm just curious, Sean, if you click on my email there, is there any presence availability there?
You are Alan. So let me click on Alan. So there's the email I received from Alan Steiner. Here you can see Alan's presence information. If I hover my mouse over Alan's picture, I get a quick pop-up window where I can start an IM session. I can call out to Alan, and whatever phone numbers we have saved within Active Directory can be pushed to his Office 365 profile. I can dial directly from there. We can start a video chat. I can also directly from here kick off an email message addressed to Alan, or if I need to expand this, I can view his full Outlook-based contact card. And it includes not just the traditional information you'd expect, such as email address, phone number, all that fun stuff. There's also a What's New, which ties into some of the social features, which we'll hopefully get to in just a few minutes. So when Alan is using the social features of Office 365 and he's updating news feeds and replying to documents and making comments about things, I would see those here as well.
And the presence communication is so granular that when you originally jumped onto my name, it said inactive for 5 minutes because I haven't moved the mouse in 5 minutes. I moved the mouse and it switched over to busy. I just let it know that it went from inactive to busy. That means I'm in front of my computer, which makes naps more difficult. But what are you going to do?
Off the audio notification for there, so we don't get the ding to wake you up from your nap.
Exactly.
Another common question, since email is a mission-critical application nowadays, is what does it look like if I am using Outlook Web Access? So let me switch over to the Outlook Web Access interface, and hopefully we're now seeing OWA. And you should notice that right away the experience looks very much like what we had in the desktop application. Microsoft's put a lot of effort in making sure that out of the box the two environments are consistent. So the big difference I think that jumps out for users is we don't have along the bottom pane, we don't have the calendar, the tasks, or the calendar and the people, excuse me. Those are up here on the menu bar across the top, where I could switch to my calendar or I could switch to my contacts. But beyond that, the look and feel of what you can do is designed to be as consistent as possible with your typical desktop experience.
And the presence is still there. So you see that
That's
Julian is still has the presence there, and the pop-up works even within the web. So your pop-up availability happens not just in Outlook, not just in SharePoint, but also on the web, on OWA and whatnot.
All right, so if I go back to that Alan Steiner message and hover over Alan, there's that pop-up again where I can kick off an email, see, schedule a link meeting, or just start an IM. Start an IM with Alan. Alan, are you signed in the link? Let's see. The link product. Oh, that's going to be a different web window. Let me share that web window. One moment. There we go. The link product has a bunch of different user experiences. There is this web-based client, which is a simple web page. You obviously have the full desktop application. There's also a downloadable client for users that you want to communicate with, or if you want a more robust link experience than what you have between the differences between the web application and the full-blown link client. There is a simple desktop tool. Yeah. So wherever you start to see presence indicators, you can start to connect to and communicate with different people.
So there's a full-blown link client, correct?
There's a full-blown link client, which you get when you have Link on-prem. There's the web experience that we just saw here, and then there's also a in-between, middle-of-the-road downloadable web client for if you want a desktop application and you're using just the online Office 365 link experience. And so here I've jumped over to SharePoint to show you a couple more of those new features. For example, news feeds. So here if I scroll on down in our SharePoint team site, you can see a new feature is this concept, or a new feature brought to the front is this concept of news feeds. You know, everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but 1/6 of the world, right, is familiar now with this concept and uses this concept of having status updates, which is what a news feed is here in this social piece. What were the last numbers from Facebook? I think Facebook says they have over 1 billion registered users now. So this is a concept that our users are using outside the office no matter what. Microsoft tries to bring it into the corporate world where we're not necessarily talking about what we're going to have for lunch or our weekend win, but we can start to share comments and share discussions about business-based objectives. So for example, you can see Alan left a message. I can like that message. I can add a reply. When you start to like or reply to comments, that affects the SharePoint search algorithm. Content that's been liked, content that has been commented on, generally comes up higher in the search results. You can see a message, for example, down here with Cassie that you can do @replies. So I can send a directed message to Alan, in which case, again, it will show up in his news feed that someone's commenting or talking about him. You can also do hashtagging now.
And this makes SharePoint so friendly. I mean, friendly but yet discoverable. So let's not. This isn't the Wild Wild West. This is fully discoverable from a e-discovery standpoint. So from legality, from a legal standpoint, you can search for all this. This isn't just stuff that is just roaming out there in the wild. So that's key, because you don't want to just have, I'm going to start a social network on my enterprise. It's not quite like that. It has the look and feel, but you can still maintain control from the enterprise standpoint.
Sure. Let's actually, while we're talking about it, take a quick look at that. You do have e-discovery in both Exchange and SharePoint. So here I'll jump into the SharePoint Discovery Center. And what you do in SharePoint is we build what are called cases, and then you build a query which is a full text query for what do you want to go through your environment and look for.
And if you scroll down just a little bit.
Yep, I'll get there in a second. So I name the case. I would add my full text query here. You can add date, time parameters. You can add specific user identities you want to look for. And then down here is where do we want to look. So let's scroll down the screen. So I can search through all of my Exchange content, including link content, or I can point to my SharePoint document libraries, discussion boards, really any list within SharePoint and say, let's go search that content for whatever keywords I've entered up here. So the nice thing about especially the Exchange piece is it doesn't affect the end user experience. Let's say a user has deleted a message from their inbox, but we have a e-discovery query that has captured it. We can still, of course, access that through e-discovery. The end user thinks it's gone. We know that it's maintained on the server side, so we have that paper trail maintained. We have a lot of core BTS. We work with a lot of state and local governments that's a great feature for. One last piece here. Let me switch to a different web window. I wanted to point out some of the administrative tools. So Keith at the end of the presentation mentioned the single unified interface. This is the Office 365 portal where we can go in and just manage our Office 365 tenancy or presence. So this includes things like service requests that we can make. Here we see the services and the status of those services. A common question comes up on how well is Microsoft meeting their goals of having no known issues, or what is their uptime. And you can drill into here, and for example, this is a highlight of this particular environment. It looks like twice over the last week we had some portal issues, but everything else has been consistent and up and running, and this one was resolved in just about 2 hours. The e-discovery piece, from an Exchange perspective, we manage in the Exchange piece. So using my admin drop-down menu up here, I can switch to get into the fine-grained properties of Exchange, Link Online, and SharePoint Online. So here I'll jump into Exchange. And for example, again, I see all my Exchange users. And then over here on the left, if I click into Compliance Management, we can access and build the same type of e-discovery queries. Here is the data loss prevention properties, using again the built-in template, checking for credit card patterns. And then Keith also mentioned from an Exchange perspective where we can apply retention policies and enforce retention on a user or really on any type of content within the system. That's a whirlwind overview of some of those features that Keith mentioned. Keith, let me throw it back to you.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of scratches the surface as far as Office 365 is concerned. There's a lot of unique features that we didn't cover today in our short time here, but we certainly hope that there was value to this. So I think at this point we can open it up to any questions you guys might have. And again, don't forget to sign up for a follow-up so that way we can get into more depth as far as Office 365 is concerned.
Great. Thank you, Keith and Sean. We do have some questions that came in during the presentation. We have a question from Nate. How is my data being backed up in the Office 365 cloud, and where is it?
Sure. So Microsoft has multiple dedicated data centers for Office 365 throughout the world, and basically your data from a Exchange standpoint is copied 3 times in 2 different locations. So there's basically 6 copies throughout the Microsoft cloud, if you will, at any given time. So that creates your high availability and your redundancy. So there's no data loss or anything like that. And there's a website that you could look at. I believe it's Global Foundation that basically has the data centers listed. But Microsoft has built put billions of dollars into their data centers to make it, redundant and highly available for their users.
Great, thank you. And we have another question from Randy. How does Office 365 handle sensitive information and e-discovery?
Sure. So as we showed, and as Sean has on the screen there, we have the ability to to do a granular search and not just PCI for credit cards, but you could also do legal hold throughout the organization. You can do credit card discovery. You can do Social Security number discovery or any other thing. And as Sean mentioned, it works off of a filter, an algorithm that can discover that information pretty much wherever you throw it, wherever you have it. Also, from a legal hold standpoint, you can make it so the any information for, as we looked at that financial user had a 5-year hold placed on her information. So anything she deletes, anything she gets out of, deletes from deleted items, it doesn't make a difference. That all goes into a filter. Another feature with Office to make things a little bit easier from a discovery standpoint is Microsoft has gotten away from PSTs. So your personal folders that were in previous versions of Exchange and Outlook, those are going away, and there's archiving features as well that you can do within Office 365. So the archiving features is nice because then you don't have to worry about local copies of information or emails being on laptops that the hard drive might go bad, or desktops, or they lose their machine. All that information is saved back through their new archiving feature.
Great, thank you. We have another question from Brian. Does the newsfeed include updates from all connected social and communications accounts?
I think it has, Sean, you might know it. I think it's LinkedIn. Facebook, Yammer, and I don't know if Twitter has a plugin yet.
Yeah, it would be whatever ones that you've exposed for that user. It should be whatever ones you've exposed for that user in Outlook.
Right.
Whatever you've connected to them should show up in the newsfeed. Right.
So from the which ones standpoint, I know at the very least it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Yammer, and then those can be administratively managed as well. So you can restrict those. So from one of the feature sets is when a user goes in and wants to connect to their social network, an IT organization can actually have that specific. They can make their own list, basically. So the IT organization can have, their personal Yammer feed in their as one of the social sites, right? The Yammer feed for the company can be in that social site. LinkedIn can be in there, but you can take away Facebook. That type of thing.
Great, thank you. I think the next question is a little bit tied into the same subject. Is the newsfeed open to everyone in the company, and what are the privacy settings?
Right. So yeah. So you can restrict that from a administrative standpoint on what sites you want to open up to the social piece of it, as far as the Outlook tie-in. Personally, I have LinkedIn tied in. That's the only one I did, and so it's kind of interesting. Once you tie in LinkedIn to the Outlook profiles, all of a sudden everybody's LinkedIn picture, if they don't have an actual picture already embedded into their company profile, their LinkedIn picture can show up as well. So it's kind of a neat feature to kind of tie it in to the point where what Sean was showing, that I can actually go in and see, this person connected to XYZ. These people have a connection within it. But again, this is fully controlled from the administrative side. This is just kind of a feature add that if your users want it and you deem it something of value, you can add that.
Great. Thanks so much. I think we'll wrap up the Q&A session right now, but if anybody has any additional questions, please do use that scheduling module to set up an appointment after the event with a core BTS representative so you can discuss the topics more in depth. Guys, if you have anything else to add?
No, ma'am.
No, I think
Great.
we're good.
Thanks, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Keith and Sean. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.